p.m. Today is Thursday, August 17, 2023. The monthly meeting of the Bibb Board of Education, our committee meeting, will now come to order. Colleagues, you have the agenda before you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. So, motion by Mr. Freeman.
Second.
Second by Vice President Johnson. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same right. The ayes have it, and the agenda is approved as printed. We first start off with our Instructional Services Committee, chaired by our chairwoman, Dr. Thelma Dillard. Dr. Dillard.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, there are only two items on the instructional services. One is CTAE Perkins allocation for action, and IS2 is a presentation on the Georgia milestones. So we will begin with IS1 with Dr. Rogers or Dr. Washington. He's already there. We'll begin now with Dr. Washington with CTAE Perkins allocation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Jackson, board members, and Superintendent Dr. Dan A. Sims. For the 2023-2024 school year, Career Technical and Agriculture Education has been awarded $515,701 in Carl D. Perkins federal funds. It is recommended that the board approves Career Technical and Agriculture Education Carl D. Perkins federal funds in the amount of $515,701 for the 2023-2024 school year. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Ford. Questions? All in favor of the motion, let me know by the word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. IS1 passes unanimously and will be sent to the consent agenda. Thank you, Dr. Washington. Now for our presentation, Dr. Johnson. Our presentation on Georgia milestones.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Board President Jackson, board members, and Superintendent Dr. Sims. This afternoon, I will share with you our 2023 Georgia milestones results. This presentation aligns to our vision and mission as we seek to maximize student achievement and prepare students to be productive and caring citizens within their chosen paths of success. It also aligns to all three goals and the principles of personalized learning, collaboration, and engagement, as well as empowering our learners to make an informed for-me decision. It also aligns to our theory of action. If we build stakeholder engagement plus strengthen staff effectiveness, we will maximize student achievement. I will share our grade 3 through 8 end of grade test results, our high school end of course exam results, the relationship between absenteeism and achievement, as well as our next steps for improvement. Our main takeaway is that the 2023 Georgia milestones scores provide the first progress update since the new baseline data was released in 2022. Overall, Bibb County achievement levels increased or remained steady from the prior year. However, we do acknowledge there is still the need for improvement, and we are committed to supporting the success of our students and schools. I have provided the data in two ways throughout the presentation. First as a graph, and then as a chart of the same data on a single slide. I will display each graph and then provide an overall summary when I reach the chart at the end of each section. We will begin by reviewing the reading status of our students in grades 3 through 8. These graphs show the percentage of students reading on or above grade level in 2022, which is on the left side, and our most recent performance on the right in 2023. The number inside the bar graph represents the change from 2022 to 2023. In third grade, our students increased 1 percentage point from 50% in 2022 to 51% in 2023. In fourth grade, our students increased 1% from 39% in 1 percentage point from 39% in 2022 to 40% in 2023. In 5th grade, the percentage of students reading on or above grade level decreased by 3 percentage points from 58% in 2022 to 55% in 2023. In 6th grade, our students reading on or above grade level increased by 2 percentage points from 38% in 2022 to 40% in 2023. In 7th grade, the percentage of students reading on or above grade level increased by 2 percentage points from 53% in 2022 to 55% in 2023. In 8th grade, our students reading on or above grade level increased by 4 percentage points from 56% in 2022 to 60% in 2023. The percentage of students reading on or above grade level increased in 5 of the 6 grade levels tested. The greatest increase occurred in 8th grade, and the greatest decrease occurred in 5th grade. I will refer back to 5th grade later in the presentation. Next, we will look at our students' performance in English Language Arts. These graphs show the percentage of students scoring at each achievement level. 2022 is on the left, and our most recent performance, 2023, is on the right. This is 3rd grade English Language Arts. In the areas of proficient or above, which is the blue and the green areas, we increased by 2 percentage points, from 21% in 2022 to 23% in 2023. In 4th grade English Language Arts, the percentage of students performing at proficient or above, again the blue and the green, decreased by 1 percentage point from 20% in 2022 to 19% in 2023. In 5th grade, the percentage of students performing at proficient or above decreased by 1 percentage point from 25% in 2022 to 24% in 2023. In 6th grade, the percent of students performing at proficient or above increased by 1 percentage point from 21% in 2022 to 22% in 2023. In 7th grade, the percent of students performing proficient or above decreased by 1 percentage point from 21% in 2022 to 20% in 2023. And in 8th grade, the percent of students performing proficient or above, the blue and the green, increased by 2 percentage points from 23% in 2022 to 25% in 2023. The percentage of students scoring proficient or above increased in 3 of the 6 grade levels. The only significant decrease in student achievement was in 5th grade, where we also saw previously a decrease in the percentage of students reading on grade level or above. Next, we will look at our students' performance in mathematics. Again, these graphs show the percentage of students performing at each achievement level. 2022 is on the left, and our most recent performance, 2023, is on the right. In 3rd grade mathematics, the percentage of students scoring proficient or above increased by 4 percentage points from 19% in 2022 to 23% in 2023. In 4th grade, the percentage of students performing above, again the blue and the green, increased by 2 percentage points from 22% in 2022 to 24% in 2023. In 5th grade mathematics, the percent of students performing proficient or above decreased by 1 percentage point from 17% in 2022 to 16% in 2023. In 6th grade mathematics, the percentage of students performing proficient or above increased by 1 percentage point from 11% in 2022 to 12% in 2023. In 7th grade mathematics, there was no change, 11% in 2022 and 11% in 2023. In 8th grade mathematics, the percentage of students performing proficient or above increased by 1 percentage point from 14% in 2022 to 15% in 2023. The percentage of students scoring proficient or above increased in 4 of the 6 grade levels tested. The most significant increases occurred in 3rd and 6th grade. Next, we'll look at our students' performance in science. Only 5th and 8th grade students are tested in science. Again, these graphs show the percentage of students scoring at each achievement level. 2022 is on the left, and 2023, our most recent results, are on the right. This is 5th grade science. The percentage of students performing at proficient or above increased by 1 percentage point, the blue and the green, from 24% in 2022 to 25% in 2023. In 8th grade science, the percentage of students performing proficient or above decreased by 4 percentage points, from 16% to 12% in 2023. Only 5th grades showed an increase in the percentage of students scoring proficient or above. There was a significant decrease in 8th grade, and we noticed this trend also at the high school level. I'll address our plan for improvement at the end of the presentation during the next steps portion. Next, we'll look at our students' performance in social studies. Only 8th grade students are tested in social studies. Again, these graphs show the percentage of students scoring at each achievement level. 2022 is on the left, and our most recent performance in 2023 is on the right. There was no change in the percentage of students performing proficient or above in 2022, 13% in both years. Again, the percentage of students scoring proficient or above did not change. Next, we will look at our students' performance in high school end-of-course exams. Again, these graphs show the percentage of students scoring at each achievement level. 2022 is on the left, and 2023, our most recent results, on the right. This is American literature. The percentage of students scoring proficient or above decreased by 2 percentage points, from 21% in 2022 to 19% in 2023. This is Algebra 1. There was no change. It was 9% in 2022, as well as 9% in 2023. This is biology. There was a decrease by 5 percentage points from 2022 to 2023, with 22% in 2022 and 17% in 2023. In U.S. history, there was no change in the percentage of students performing proficient or above, both 10% in 2022 and 10% in 2023. The percentage of students scoring proficient or above did not increase in our end-of-course exams. As mentioned earlier, there was a significant decrease in biology, and additionally, Algebra 1 remained an area of concern. This chart shows the relationship between absenteeism and achievement. Each circle represents a school. The vertical y-axis depicts average scale scores or student performance on the Georgia milestones. The horizontal x-axis at the bottom shows the average absenteeism percentage. You will notice that student absenteeism increases, student achievement decreases. This provides a visual representation of the importance of ensuring our students attend school every day, and this can only be achieved by engaging and collaborating with our stakeholders, primarily our parents and guardians. While overall performance increased or remained steady, we also know there is a need for continued improvement. The next steps I will share will focus on the support the Teaching and Learning Department will provide teachers and schools. We, of course, welcome and need the support, engagement, and investment of our community partners and other stakeholders to maximize student achievement. In order to improve student achievement in the areas of reading and English language arts, we implemented the following initiatives. All elementary teachers and administrators will participate in letters training. This will equip them to provide more effective literacy instruction. Also, all elementary students will have access to an artificially intelligent reading tutor that will provide one-on-one support that can be accessed within and outside the school day. This year, the state has implemented new math standards which focus on students persevering through the problem-solving process and using math in the real world. We are designing, sharing, and supporting teachers through implementing these types of learning experiences with our students. We are also providing ongoing professional development related to the new standards. Also this year, we have launched the use of our new science instructional materials. Thank you to the board for approving their adoption. These materials for more support for students. Also, the Georgia Department of Education recommended hands-on lab experiences which directly support student mastery of the science standards. In the area of social studies, we are currently beginning the instructional material adoption process. We are using this data to select the most well-aligned materials with a focus on content strongly aligned to literacy and that fosters critical and higher order thinking. And last, to address absenteeism, we will increase engagement and collaboration with our parents and guardians through the Show Up campaign, our attendance protocol, and the attendance task workforce. Are there any questions?
Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can y'all hear me? Thank you for your presentation, Dr. Johnson. I got 3 questions. First one, how do you feel about these test scores?
We definitely have room for improvement. We definitely want to see more of our students performing at the proficient level or above.
Okay, you said overall we have gains and remain steady. But as I was looking at the graphs that you have on the screen that we have in our packet, I saw some gain with just a little bit with proficient and a teensy bit with distinguished. But most of the gain is in beginning. We have more students in 2023 at beginning, look like in every area, and some of them are high in beginning, than in 2022. I would expect to see a lower percentage of students in 2023 because we've had them all year. We didn't have to go through COVID like we did in the previous years. But instead, the students, we have way more students at beginning, in the beginning stage, than in 2022. How do they explain that?
You know, that is definitely something that's difficult to explain. What I will share with the board that our data is very similar to the data of the state. The state also saw very similar decreases in stagnant performance. We attribute that to still addressing the COVID interruption. We still address it to making sure that we have the best teaching workforce and preparing them to be in front of our students every day. And it's just definitely an ongoing process of improvement, but I do understand and see what you're saying.
And my last question is, how do our schools compare with the state? I know you said it was about the same.
Right, so as far as trend, we're on trend with them, meaning that we went up where they went up, we went down where they went down. There's still a gap in our performance, meaning that we still have to close that gap between our county and the state.
Thank you.
Dr. Boyd.
I don't have a mic. Oh, well, I can speak loud enough.
Dr. Boyd?
Yes.
Sorry. If you would try and speak to Mr. Morris, because
Yes,
so that
yes,
folks online
I
can hear
will.
us.
I will.
We have another.
Here's my teacher voice.
Okay, here, what I'd like to say is, as a former classroom teacher, we have to remember that you're comparing apples and oranges. You're comparing 2 different groups of children. If we can look at, and I think it would be absolutely impossible for us to look at growth for every one of our children, but that's what they do at the school level, is they see the growth. But you're comparing apples and oranges. And as a classroom teacher, I know we can have a group of kids one year and they're just that group. The next year, the group's a little better. So we got to realize we're comparing apples and oranges when we're looking at 2023 to 2022. Just saying.
Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Johnson, for your presentation. And to Dr. Boyd's point, she brings up a really good point. And as I've sat here and tried to make more sense of this as well, I know I'm not going to ask you to share with us now, but if you would come back with us with some additional data, I would like to know, as we talk about cohorts, right? I would like to see what type of growth have we seen from the cohorts of the graduating year cohorts to see how they did last year compared to this year. Because it is apples and oranges when you just look at last year versus this year when the cohort has changed. So I would like to know the progression of the cohorts for these scores. Secondly, my question is in relation to, so I know that we'll have new math standards that will be implemented this year. Remind me, have we received any new standards for reading or ELA?
No, those are actually coming out one more year. So they're on the horizon, coming very quickly.
And what about in science, social studies, American Lit?
No, there has not been any mention of those standards changing at this time.
Got it. All right. And my last question is probably for our Assistant Superintendent for Student Affairs. I would like to know if you'll just give us, of course, we all know about the Show Up campaign right now, but these other areas for reducing absenteeism, if you would just speak a little bit more about exactly how we plan on to doing this with intentionality behind it.
Sure. So it's going to start September 11th and 12th. We have a meeting on September 11th with all our elementary school counselors as well as our administrators. And we're going to go over our processes here. We're going to review our attendance protocol. We're going to look at the attendance cards. We're going to really talk about the breakthrough teams, which are 10-week cycles, where we identify 20 to 25 kids who have been chronically absent, and we really focus and bear down on those kids to make an improvement. At the end of the 10-week cycle, we look at the data. Some of those kids may remain, some may come out, some may come in. So we're really going to be intentional, starting in that meeting on the 11th, and then on the 12th will be our meeting with the secondary counselors and principals.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Cassidy.
Dr. Woodford.
Mr. Cassidy, do we know why students aren't showing up for school?
We do, and it's a vast number of reasons. At the elementary school level, we just have a lot of parents who do not value education. So it's really, and that's part of, you saw we have the attendance task force. We're actually driving that down into the school as well. So the schools will have their own task force. That will enable us to have meetings with more parents, more students, to talk about the issues. And when we meet with parents, it's twofold. One is to see if there's any barriers. And if there's any barriers, then we've got individuals, we've got partners that help us to remove those barriers. And then secondly, is to see if the law's been broken, and that's the attendance law, to see if we just have parents that have just been keeping kids out. And then we address those through our attendance task force at the district level, where we have the Superior Court, we have them, not Superior Court, but we have the court system involved with that.
And we do still have the truancy.
Yes, ma'am, we do. Yeah, we do. Twice a month.
Thank you.
I have a question, piggyback on Dr. Woodford's question. How or why does the lack of interest in education with parents differ at this time than it did in previous times? Because there has pretty much been a lack of interest in education in the past as an educator. So why is it different now?
I think that's what I'm trying to figure out, and when I do, I'm going to write a book. And then I'm going to help put money, I'm going to take part of those proceeds, and I'm going to give it to the school system, and we're going to all be rich. Really, I think that's the $1 million question. Dr. Dillon, again, we try to meet with parents, we try to meet them wherever they are, we try to hear what issues they may be having, we try to support them in every way possible, but even after we give them all the supports that we can possibly give and all the resources, we still have parents that do not get their kids in our schools, so that we can get them in the seats so that we can see these scores increase.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Ms. Allen.
Thank you for your Thank you for your presentation. I just had one question. In terms of looking at it school by school, I'm assuming that we have schools that are showing better than our 20 to 25% proficiency rate as opposed to others that are not. And I guess, are we looking at the factors that are driving those results other than absenteeism?
Absolutely. So we do a school-by-school analysis of data. We look at those schools that have shown higher growth and those that have shown greater decreases. And some of the things that we found goes back to teacher changes. Maybe there was a highly effective teacher that, left us this year, and so we have a first-year teacher that's teaching biology and things of that nature. And so there's a lot of different things, but yeah, we do that analysis to see where we can translate success across the district from when it's occurring in isolated areas.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin?
Thank you. Dr. Johnson, on page 37, the x-axis is the average absences. Is that unexcused absences or a combination of excused and unexcused absences?
That's a combination. So if the child was not in school, of course they weren't able to receive instruction that day.
We have school-by-school data regarding the milestones. So we're able to correlate the relationship between scores and absenteeism?
Yes.
Because the data I've seen, we have schools that do incredibly well at making sure there's not chronic unexcused absences. We have schools who have some incredible challenges with that. Just an observation. I don't know how we significantly improve scores without getting kids back in school. When I look at the recommendations we have, the last one is improving absenteeism. And I worry sometimes we put too much pressure on our teachers and administrators and too much responsibility on them for improving these scores, where, at least on the outside, it looks like to me, one of our biggest issues, we don't have kids in school enough to learn. And I realize it's a difficult problem. There are multiple reasons why it's happening, but until we start to address those numbers, I don't know how we improve things. And I would suggest looking at the schools who have the lowest percentage of chronic unexcused absences and ask them, what are they doing to get their kids in school? And I looked at it at school. The schools that have the best scores are all over the place. In areas of our community that have significant challenges. So clearly they're doing something. Please talk to them to find out what they're doing, because I worry that our scores are simply not going to get significantly better until we address that.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Mr. Freeman?
This is more of a comment and a question, but the concern about absenteeism, I believe in the carrot and the stick. And I'm happy to hear that we're looking at what are the challenges, what are the available resources to help parents that need help with those challenges. But the stick side of that is we have laws about truancy. And so I'm glad to hear we're talking about the court system. I hope that we are including the prosecutors, whoever it may be, the DAs, the solicitors, whoever it is, and the judges, to make this a priority to the court system. Because if you do have a parent who's simply breaking the law and their kid is suffering, that's why we have the law, and I'd like to see us making sure we're using both of those, like I say, the carrot and the stick. I was in court recently in family law, family court, and there was someone who was allegedly homeschooling their child, and the judge recognized what they were using for their homeschool wasn't even a program. It was a list of curriculum that didn't meet any criteria, and he went off and actually asked me while he was doing it, Mr. Freeman, am I right that they're basically breaking the law? Their child is truant because they're not even doing a qualified homeschooling program. And, that was just one case, but if you see that, you have to enforce that. And the fact that I hope we're using all of those resources for carrot and stick to make that happen.
We are.
Good. Thank you.
Any further questions, board members? Dr. Sims?
If I may, Dr. Dillon, just put a bow around this conversation. First of all, thank you, Dr. Johnson, for what I consider to be a high-level presentation of our 2023 Spring Milestones data. We look forward in future board meetings to continue conversations, data-driven conversations around teaching and learning. So this will not be the first time that we will bring data, good or bad, so that we as a board facing the community as a governance team can ensure that everybody is informed, because we realize that while we lead the way, we're not by ourselves and cannot be by ourselves in going for improvements. I want to acknowledge just a few things, if I may. First of all, we've already started some deeper digs in the data. We've created what we call a histogram. And the histogram essentially lines up all of the scores of every single student, from the lowest scoring student to the highest scoring student. What's interesting in that histogram, and if you could go back, if we could pull up real quick while I'm talking, while the pie graph shows you the number of beginning level students, etc., the histogram shows you the proximity of those students in terms of the range of beginning students, from as low as, I believe, 200 something to the score of 474. At that line, we have 3,866 students who scored between 465 and 479. On the other end of that line, we have students who scored between 480 and 495. The number is 4,852. So it's interesting to see how many students on both ends of that line. So you imagine, if you will, 3 or 4 or 5 more correct questions. And if we're able to drill down to whatever those common areas are and then adjust instruction accordingly, you're going to see some significant movements in terms of students. If I translate that same thought to developing and above, and the cut line is 525 for developing. In the elementary school, as an example, we had 3,562 students score between 510 and 524. And on the other side, we had students at 525, that number was 2,684. I say that as a matter of hope, because it's one thing to say a student is beginning, but it's another thing to say you have the majority of your students right at that line. And we have the majority of students right at the developing line. And that trend continues itself for our end of course exams. So I just want to assure the board that we don't just limit ourselves to the pie graph and to the reading below level and above level. We go much deeper than that, and this is just the beginning of a deeper dig combined with instructional walks, the renewed training that is more focused on the science of reading, and we look forward to seeing where this goes. But again, we realize that we cannot do this by ourselves. So along that line, the second piece I want to acknowledge is our set of family engagement series that are coming up in September. We started back in March, I want to say, thinking of different ways we can engage the families, but in the effort of getting them to be more actively engaged in the academic outcomes of their students. So we have 6 engagements coming up starting in September. We'll give you those dates as soon as we finalize them. Not at anybody's school, but in the community. But we want to empower parents, because one of the things we realize when we look at all these students, my question is, how many parents and how many students are aware not only of their outcomes, but how they line up in terms of what is beginning, developing, proficient, and above. And there is a significant need to increase the awareness of our teachers who are teaching these students, our parents, and our students who are the ones who are sitting down performing at this one time in life to demonstrate whether or not they are proficient. So we look forward to not just that series, but what comes out as a result of that. I do promise to you, once this exchange is over, that we will send school by school those outcomes so that you can look at schools within your district and beyond your district to see how schools fared. Speaking of that, the next thing that we've translated for this year is a renewed approach to school improvement. In past years, every school had the responsibility of coming to the table with their team to present their continuous improvement plan. While that will continue, now they do it in groups. Every school is paired with another school. To your point, Mr. Martin, another point that someone made, this is going to give us the opportunity for more exchange and formal sharing of best practices across schools and the sharing of challenges as well. So that'll go throughout the entirety of the year, and actually schools will start in groups of 4, listening to each other's continuous improvement plan, looking at each other's data, leaning in with each other as practitioners, and we're going to see how far that's going to take us, this spirit of collaboration. The last piece I'll offer, and one of the reasons we want to continue these conversations, is I'm longitudinal I just did my own little bootleg longitudinal study while I was sitting here, and I'm happy to see that there are some improvements as we look at third grade ELA to fourth grade ELA and some other areas. And we're going to take our time to do the exact same thing, because I think that's going to be another look that'll help us in terms of what some significant specific next steps will be. And I just got a text. Oh, thank you for that. Yes. And we also have our social workers working in schools daily. They are on the ground. We've shifted how their responsibilities look, spend more time inside schools, so that as opposed to a referral and a conversation and then a subsequent trip to a school, being inside the school and being more timely and face-to-face in addressing attendance and other concerns, that's a paradigm shift for our social workers. I'll take a minute just to thank them and hope they're looking. If they're not, I need to tell them to rewind, Ms. Ross, and tell them I thank them in front of the whole world for embracing a very different approach, but a very needed approach to the needs of our students. Thank you, Dr. Dillon.
Thank you, sir. Could we get some, like, at some